Go earn the right to be able to do X, Y, Z. You contribute to society in whatever way you want to contribute to society, you get a louder mic. You don't contribute to society, you shouldn't be able to have a louder mic. If I'm one of your kids, you got 4 kids, let's just say, and they all decide to live in your house. They're all above 18. Like, Dad, I want to live with you. I love you so much. I want to live with you. If one of the 4 kids isn't paying rent, and say it's the second oldest one, should he have the same amount of say as the youngest one that's paying rent to you on a monthly basis? No. The youngest one is saying, Dad, I'll pay $1,000 a month because I got a job. The second oldest one's like, nah, I just want to chill out. I don't want to pay anything. And he parties his ass off. Or he doesn't want to get to work. Go apply for a job. Nobody wants to hire me. You haven't applied for something for 6 months. What do you mean nobody wants to hire you? I have a very big problem with that person having a voice in that house saying what to do. You haven't earned the right to have a voice.
So the issue with like earning the right to vote is that if you look at the, old school Jim Crow South, they had this thing like you have to do a poll test to show that you're a good citizen, that you understand the country before you can vote. And that was just like a stealth way to try to take away the vote from poor people and from minorities. So, I mean, look, we live in a country, there's going to be some percentage of the country that are just fucking idiots, but that doesn't mean you could, take away their basic rights. So I think that, everybody, as long as they're over a certain age, I think they deserve the right to vote.
If that's the standard, that we set, then yes, you're right. Some people will be fucking idiots if you're going to say that's the standard. But if the standard is to set and say, hey, look, I'm not asking you to be a millionaire. I'm not asking you to be a billionaire. I'm not asking you to go be a CEO. What I am asking for is go contribute to society. I don't care what it is. If you contribute to society, I'm all in. I'm not going to judge you if you're making $48,000 a year. I'm not going to judge you if you're making $700,000 a year. What I will respect is the fact that you are contributing to society. Yesterday, we're staying at the Comfort Inn, and this one lady, we start talking to her. So, hey, she asked us, how was Christmas? Great, we had a great Christmas. We're all downstairs in the lobby. I'm trying to do the Zoom, and we're having a regular breakfast at Comfort Inn. You already know what the breakfast is going to look like. It's not a crazy breakfast. But this one girl, I can tell you the tattoos she had on her neck, on her hand, she's cleaning up everywhere like you wouldn't believe. She asked, how was you? How was this? Oh, my God, it was great. Well, my boyfriend and I tried to go to Christmas together, but we couldn't because we had an issue, so we had to spend time together. We didn't go to my parents' house. And then, hey, do you have a straw? She goes upstairs, grabs a straw of her mom's, and she says, I washed it, everything. I know it's not it's a used straw, but I cleaned it for you. Do you want to use this for your kid? Because, our baby only, and my nanny's like very sensitive with stuff. She's like, no, I'm not going to use that straw. And rather than giving an attitude, she says, no problem, I'll be back. The girl gets in the car, goes to her place, brings 2 straws that are covered with the whole thing around it. And she says, here, so where'd you get that from? Oh, I went home and got it for you. You're kidding me. No. Do you know how much respect I got for that person that's working at that Comfort Inn?
Absolutely.
You know what I did to her? I gave her a tip. She said, no, we can't accept tips. I said, well, I'm going to leave this money here. Don't take it if you don't want to. This money's staying here. So you can either leave it here or someone's going to take it. So, well, that's the case. I'll take the money. I said, you've earned the right. I value service. I have the same amount of respect for that girl to giving me that kind of service and the guy that pulls up in a Lamborghini who's making $20 million a year, because you're contributing to society. When you
This guy is full of shit. I'm sorry, but somebody has to say it. This guy is full of shit. This is obvious. I say this as a service person, right? The humble person that's going to do your bidding, fucking asshole, right? This guy just. I'm sorry. I messaged Gavin as soon as this guy went on his roll about taking away people's rights to vote. I was like, oh, this is how the Third Reich happened in Germany, right? A bunch of fucking stingy assholes like this guy were like, yeah, let's just get rid of these other fuckers. Yeah, what if my oldest son wasn't paying rent? You're on to something over here. Then I would be pissed off too. Let's take away these people. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're just a sheeple here that's leading us to fascism. This is unacceptable. I can't even follow you. But now you're all the way over here and you're trying to tell me, you're trying to point blank flat out lie. Oh, I've got the most same amount of respect for the humble janitor as I do the CEO. Bullshit, dude. Bullshit. You like service? No shit, because you're rich as fuck and you like it when people attend to you and you've got money to tip that lady. And as long as the structures of our society maintain the same, then you can live in opulence. And you like the hierarchical system because it's benefited you, because somehow through, I imagine, a decent amount of hard work and a lot of circumstances, right? You were born on the right patch of dirt, right? X, Y, and Z. And now you want to fucking with it's absolutely asinine to me how just like flat as day, like this guy's supposed to be a moderate, but I'm listening to you and I'm just like, are we listening to some like radical right-wing show that I need to debunk? And I don't think so. And I don't mean to be like overly caustic or mean to this guy. He might be, I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy. He seems to have a family that he cares about and all this kind of shit. I'm not trying to jump down his throat, but think about how quickly even a guy like this, let's say this guy's the middle ground in America, right? The middle fence post. I don't think he is, but let's say he is, right? And he's already like, I don't know if you should be able to vote in this country anymore. It's like, oh, we want to go back to tiered voting. That's the middle ground. Oh, I like service people because I could just tip them and then they give me things really fast and they work extra hard. You just give them little bit extra. It's like the dude that goes to like a fucking foreign country and acts like he's balling because like all the people are desperate for his USD. You're like, oh my gosh, yeah, the people, they'll just like fucking come running over to you. They'll fucking treat you like a king over here. And it's like, yeah, because they're deeply poor thanks to international circumstances, and you have money thanks to other international circumstances you guys both had nothing to do with, and now you're acting like you're somehow more virtuous than him, or equitably virtuous. Like, what the hell? And the fact that again, our middle ground, our fence post, and I'll get off this hill in a second, is this guy putting your value at like, how can you, what is, it's so deeply entrenched in capitalism and the pursuit of wealth, and like, not your success at accumulating wealth, no, just your relentless pursuit of it, how hard you work at getting rich, basically, is like the value structure that this guy likes to reward. It's sometimes it's crazy to me to listen to people talk. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what our society creates in a lot of people. This is why the left always loses, because this is way more common than I realize.
Say there's going to be a lot of messed up people in America. I have a problem making that be okay rather than challenging them to say, go contribute, even if it's this much.
For that woman, let's say you were somebody else and you're kind of an asshole and she gives amazing service and then they don't tip at all. What would you say about her? Shouldn't she get a raise? Shouldn't she be paid more upfront? Because I have a problem with the minimum, the exception to the minimum wage rules, where it's like, well, we have this minimum wage, but then if you work in this industry or that industry, you actually make less than the minimum wage, and then you have to earn it in tips. I think in many instances,
wage
that's
like
fucking
servers.
bullshit.
That's
Yeah, you could literally work full time and then not make enough money to survive. I don't think that should be a thing. I think and to your point, I think that if you're running a respectable business, like, you need to earn the right to be in business, and that means you need to pay your people, if they're working full time, enough to get by.
But if you don't, somebody else will. So
also, I would go one step further and say that even if you're not working full time, and even if you're not, quote unquote, contributing to society in a way that this guy deems fit, I still think you should have your basic needs met. Even if you literally just lay on your ass and fucking masturbate all day watching Transformers movies or something, and you contribute literally nothing to society, that doesn't mean you deserve to be destitute. That doesn't mean you deserve to, be starving and barely paying rent. Like, sure, you may not deserve the kind of bread that you would get if you otherwise were hustling and really motivated and out there every day trying to make it in the world. Like, yeah, you don't deserve the same amount of money and clout that someone like that might earn for themselves. But no one, no matter what your condition is, or no matter what your level of contribution to society is, should deserve to be fucking destitute in the wealthiest country in the world. So I even would go a step further than Kyle.
On top of that, this guy, I guarantee you, he's about to plow right into one of the conservative capitalist favorite talking points, right? Oh, well, then the market's going to step in and they can go get a better job, or it's going to take care of them, right? But this guy's never read his 20th century fiction, right? He's never read his Steinbeck. Because if you read The Grapes of Wrath, man, it'll tell you in pretty poetic terms what happens when you got a fuckload of poor people that are desperate to do anything for work. Does it drive the value of your labor up or down? It drives it way the fuck down, because people will then get desperate. They can't feed their kids. They can't pay their mortgage. They're living on the side of the road. And then you start having lack of access to food. So then people will work for straight up just food, which we had to outlaw in this country because that's what fucking happened. The market didn't take care of them. No, the market led to such rabid desperation and the abundance of shanty towns, and only a world war pulled us out of it. We upended our entire economy and made it a war machine economy, which we have never fucking changed. That's why we still spend all of our fucking money on war, because our society will collapse if we don't. Okay, right? That's what the fuck we've done in order to ensure that the capitalist system has maintained. It is not like, oh, another shopkeeper is going to pay a more competitive rate and take less. No, that's not the way it works. This isn't the fucking fairy tale land that you get to create to make your arguments. That's not economics. Yeah, that's its own fairy tale, but for another day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. That's why we have that's why we have fucking Joe Biden breaking strikes for railroad workers. What about people's right to organize? What about freedom, right? all kinds of shit that people like this guy, I imagine, would claim that they value so deeply, like freedom, the right to just be free in this country. Well, apparently they're not free to go on strike if you're a railroad worker and it's almost Christmas, right? We don't have that in this fucking country.
So that's a great thing
Yeah,
about
but shouldn't we
capitalism.
crack down on the people who are cheating
But
the
you have-
system
but
and who are fraudulent.
I don't think they survive, Kyle. I don't.
Oh,
think-
many of them do.
No, they don't. They don't survive.
You don't think there are any companies that pay less than a living wage?
They do, but they
Yeah.
can't keep good people though. They can't keep good people. Kyle, listen, how long? If you're in a, have you ever been in a relationship where a person didn't value you?
Oh, absolutely.
What'd you do?
Eventually, we left. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
have you ever been the asshole to her?
I'm sure I have.
I have too. And what did she do?
Yeah.
She left you and I.
Sure.
But the point is,
All right, sorry to keep cutting in here, but this is just such a ridiculous point this guy's making. He's basically comparing the relationship between an employer and their employee to an abusive relationship between two people in a romantic relationship. Like, oh, well, you've probably been in a bad relationship with a girlfriend before. What'd you do? You left. That's what you do if you're a worker and, you're slaving away from this company that's exploiting the fuck out of you, stealing your labor and profiting based off of said labor. You just leave and go find a job that pays you better. It's that simple, bro. Like, what are you doing? You have the ability to leave. You know what you signed up for. No one's forcing you to take this job. Well, that's kind of bullshit because in many cases, people don't have any other fucking option. Like, for the most part, no one's you're not obligated to be in a relationship with someone romantically. If I don't have a girlfriend, I'm going to be fine. If whoever doesn't have a boyfriend, they're going to be fine. You don't need to be in a relationship. There's some exceptions. Some people do financially rely on their spouse. That definitely exists. But for the most part, that's a choice. In today's hyper-capitalist society, we really don't have a choice unless you're insanely privileged. You really don't have a choice but to be employed. Everyone has to have a job to make their fucking rent, to have healthcare, to have the basic needs met. Unfortunately, that is the society we live in. And it's just not the same comparison because, again, you don't have to be in a relationship. You have to have an employer. And when a vast majority or at least a large plurality of the jobs in this country are exploitative by nature and don't pay people enough, that does deserve some criticism. That does deserve some reflection from society and say, hey, what are we doing here? These people are working hard. They're probably working just as hard and putting in just as much labor as a guy like this guy, but they're not having their basic needs met because they are being exploited. And somehow, when you talk to a capitalist, saying exploitation bad is a controversial opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to reiterate your point, I mean, it's exactly what Barbara Ehrenreich, who actually passed away this year, rest in peace, illustrated in her very famous book, what's it called? Nickel and Dimed on Not Getting By in America, right? And how she illustrates, she works all of these minimum wage jobs in Florida, right? And she's like a housekeeper. She does a couple of other different things, right? Works predominantly female jobs, right? And she's like talking to these women about why they can't get back on their feet. Well, it costs me X amount of money in gas to get here, and I have to work this many days, and I have to get all of my hours. But if why don't you get a job in another place? Well, they only do hiring on the day that I'm already working, and if I take day off work, then I won't have enough money to pay rent because I already can't pay rent. But if I save up all my money and I use food stamps, then I can survive. And all this crazy stuff. And that's how people get trapped in the vicious cycle. Because as you said, Gavin, you literally do not have a choice in this country. You have to generate an income of some sort. You have to have a place to live. You have to participate in some sort of, capitalist system. You can't be above it.
people eventually leave assholes. Okay. Like, this isn't like, where we're living in the Middle East and you have, it's a sweatshop in China. And no, this is America.
Yeah,
in America, you have choices, you have options. So even if the guy doesn't pay well, you leave. If they don't leave, here's what's the worst thing that happens. Can you pull up the story with what McDonald's just did, the first full-on automated? I don't know if you saw this or not. That's showing what it's doing. They're going to go automated and they're going to say,
but here's the thing. I think they're going to do that anyway. I think we're moving towards that anyway.
I do as well.
So then we need to find a way to ameliorate when the bottom floors falls out from underneath everybody who's already struggling and it gets even worse. We need to find a way to ameliorate that. We're going to be dealing with real civil unrest, the likes of which we haven't seen in our lifetime.
See, for me, on the first question, by the way, when I said people are going to leave and find another job, here's for me, okay. I think the message that Bernie has, I just so you know, I trust Bernie 100 times more than I trust Biden.
Yeah, because you think he's authentic.
Because I believe him.
Right, you believe
he's a true believer. So I sit there and I say, you know what? I respect you
right
on what you're saying. I can sit there and listen to a person and say, I respect the fact that you fully believe in what you're talking about. I don't see Bernie as a manipulator.
Right.
I see Bernie that maybe, hey, you know what? Let's pay minimum wage should be this much. And then he was paying one of his interns $12 and he came out like, shit, we screwed up. I didn't know about it. Okay. None of us is walking on water. My standard isn't walking on water. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, look at him. We should tax the millionaires. Now it's taxing the billionaires because he's now a millionaire. Fine. Totally get it. So the marker's moving a little bit more. It's always taxed the people that are a little bit richer than me. That's a little bit of the contradiction that comes with the taxes. But going back to this part, this is my challenge. Here's my challenge. My challenge becomes, Kyle, in our house, the currency is reading books, pages. So if you read,
what the fuck is this guy's deal? Can we pause it for a second? The U.S. This is what I hate. The U.S. government is not your house, guy. This isn't your castle. Okay, this is ridiculous. Okay, in my house, the currency is I don't give a fuck. Okay, I don't care at all, and it has no bearing on what we're talking about right here at all. At all. I'm sorry. I'll let him make his stupid fucking argument, but Jesus Christ.
Thanks. Okay, if you're one of my kids. The moment you turn 6 years old, you have to read 20 pages a day. You read 20 pages a day, you can ask for things. You read 20 pages a day, you get iPad every weekend for 1 hour. Okay, you're able to watch TV and movies on the weekend. Okay, you read 20 pages a day, you're able to ask XYZ every quarter. Okay, you read 20. The currency is reading. So we're having this game, we're playing Scrabble. And my kids are able to come up with all these different words because these kids read. Okay, we're playing this Jeopardy type of a game. Questions. Did you know this? All of a sudden, my kid answers. I'm like, what? I never knew that. How did you learn about that? Well, because I read XYZ. He's read like 500 UHQ books by 10 years old. I think I come to you versus I go to him. And both of you guys are my uncle. And I'm his son, okay, hypothetically. So I go to Adam. And I say, Adam, I got to tell you, man, I'm so sick of my dad, Rob. It's just, I'm so sick of it. He wants me to do this. He wants me to do that. He wants me to eat this. He wants me to train like this. He wants me to read this book. I'm so freaking tired of my dad.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if one of your kids didn't do their daily allotment of reading, you would let them fucking starve and be homeless. Like, you're trying to compare your household and the way you raise your family to the way American society treats its most disenfranchised and destitute civilians. But the reality is saying, well, in my house, fucking reading is currency. I really struggle to believe that, as I said, he's letting his kids who don't fulfill their daily reading allotment become destitute, fucking starve, exist without shelter and heat in the winter. Like, let's be honest, that's not what's happening, dude. Because you do understand the concept of having a humane society that affords its citizens its basic needs. You certainly afford your kids their basic needs. I'm sure if one of them got rebellious and decided, fuck you, dad, I'm not going to do my reading today, you wouldn't say, all right, well, you don't get any fucking dinner. And also I'm cutting off your health care.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not so sure about this guy anymore. Like, all I can think while we're listening to him is like, Jesus Christ, what's this guy like at soccer practice? Like, I swear to God, it's like, I don't know if it would be worse to be his child or like maybe the referee at a game. Like, this guy seems like he takes recreational soccer, like 11-year-old girls. He's like pacing up and down the side, like clenching his teeth, like, anyway. I get big energy from that guy about this, especially when I use reading as currency. How about a way to make your kids not love reading, right? Like how to make your kids like actually think that this is a chore and something that you do. Like that's how you get a household of people who never venture out past like nonfiction, right? They never actually experience any of the joy and richness and texture of a novel, right? It's all about like how to get richer faster. And it's just like, oh yeah, you're really fucking expanding the old mind bubble with that shit.
Yeah, you're working a dead-end job at Walmart where they're paying you $7 an hour. Well, just try reading more, bro. Like, just read fucking 5 books a week and maybe your shit will get better, you know?
Adam says the following. He says, your dad's been annoying for his entire life. He's my brother. I've known him. He's annoying. Just be patient. When you're 18, get the hell away from him as quickly as possible, okay? You shouldn't have to work that hard. That's not fair. You're just a kid. Why is he pushing you so hard? That's not what he should be doing. A lot of people disagree with your dad, but unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it right now, okay? That's one uncle. Now, I go to his other brother, it's you. I say, Uncle Kyle, my dad is this. My dad is that. He's so annoying. And you say, just be lucky that's your dad, okay? Because he's raising a leader. One day you're going to do this. One day you're going to do that. One day you're going to do this. I would be very grateful that you have the dad that you have. There's 2 philosophies in America right now. One is feeling sorry for you constantly. The other one is telling you, step up and lead and do something about it. I like this more because it's keeping less people dependent on a system. This is keeping more people dependent on the system. This mindset increases taxes. This mindset decreases taxes. What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, let me just be clear. I've never met a tax cut for the working class that I didn't love. I love cutting taxes on working class people. So I'm not talking, I'd give them even more money.
Yeah,
right. So what I'm talking about is more on the top.
But you know what I'm talking? I'm talking about contributing.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But let me just address the point, because I think there's an important counter argument, which is I don't think a system can justify somebody working full time and then they don't get paid enough money to even survive. I think that system has failed to prove itself as being the best system. To your point, in fact, I almost agree with your point maybe more than you do, because I want to reward the hard work. And my point is, I feel like the hard work is not being rewarded right now, because I think like basically 95% of the country is trying their hardest and in many instances just treading water in the same place and not getting.
I don't know if it's 95%, but I think majority are. I don't think it's 95%.
Okay. So we have broad agreement on that. Yes.
Yeah, no, I do. But here's the part. So when you're talking about, if a person's working a full-time job and they're not able to pay the bills, I don't think that's fair. Okay,
Good.
fine. No, you're saying that. No, I don't.
You were agreeing. Okay.
No, I'm not agreeing.
Oh, look, we made.
I'm not agreeing. But this is what I would say.
Agree now.
You know what I would say? Here's what I would say to them. Okay. Here's what I would say to them. There was a time my market value was $3.75 an hour, and they probably overpaid. When they were paying me $3.75 an hour, because I was not a good employee. Okay. There was a time my market value was $6 an hour. Okay. When I worked at Burger King, I was $4.75 an hour. Okay. When I worked at Bally Total Fitness, it was $7.20 an hour. That's what they paid me. That was the market value for me, because the military paid me pennies on a dollar, because the military, you're working 100 hours a week. So they're not paying you a lot of money. You make $800 a month. You're broke. So when I'm sitting there at Bally's and I'm making $7 an hour, okay, and I'm broke and I can't do anything, you know what I would do on my break? I always had a book I read. So I would sit, they would make fun of me. I would sit there and I'm reading a book. I'm a 1.8 GPA guy. Okay. I'm not a guy that's a reading guy. I'm a guy that started, first book I ever finished in my life, cover to cover, I was 21 years old. First book I ever finished, I was 21 years old. So I'm sitting there, and on my break, this guy named Jose, who was my boss, he would come and make fun of me. He'd say, Patrick, what are you doing? You believe in this dream type of stuff of being a millionaire. Do you realize I make $80,000 a year? I drive a nice BMW. I got a great life. You think these books are going to change your life? And I'm like, listen, man, I have no desire to make $80,000, because that's a tough life for me. I saw what my mom and dad did. I don't want to do what you're doing. You're clubbing 5 nights a week. You're on your 3rd marriage. I just don't want that life. And I told him straight up. He's like, what? It's like, I don't want your life. It's that simple. I just don't want your life. And I think there's a lot of people that don't want that life. But rather than saying, I think it's unfair that these people are making only this much and they can barely pay their bills, my question to them is, what are you doing to increase your market value? If you increase, for example, you're using an iPhone, right? Why don't you use a BlackBerry? Why don't you use an old Nextel? Why don't you use a Nokia? Why do you use a BlackBerry? Why do you use an iPhone?
It's pretty arbitrary. I just, whatever phone fell in my lap.
I don't think that's the case, though. I don't think that's the case.
And also, those things they're not really sold anymore anyway.
Some of them are. Some of the shitty phones are still around. But the point is the following. You need that phone because you need to check your creative studios. You need to check YouTube. You need to get back on Twitter. You're a personality. People want to see what you have to say. So that phone has made the best argument to you as a market value. That's why you're using that phone, not some of the older phones. I think the same way Apple has made the argument to you to use their phone is the same way a lot of people need to sit there and say, well, maybe my market value is only $42,000 a year.
See, I don't disagree with you, though. That's the thing. I think we're talking past each other, because if your argument is, if I boil it down to its...
Yeah, I do disagree with him, Kyle. So let me weigh in here first. Okay, it's this guy's argument, and it's what's his face? Peter Schiff, the guy that Joe Rogan has like an infatuation with, that he's like a hardcore anarcho-capitalist. He's been on the Jimmy Dore show, right, to talk about, I don't know, some fucking crazy shit, right, I imagine. But anyway, he makes this exact same argument, right, for why it's good for your company to be able to exploit labor in Puerto Rico, because it's like, oh, American business is going to Puerto Rico, and then we're teaching these people skills, right, and they didn't have skills before, and it's like those skills right now they're only worth $4 an hour. But someday they could be just like me, and then they could be exploiting people. And this guy's whole rationale is because, and I don't believe it's flimsy fucking story, but let's just say for fucking shits and giggles that, this guy really was, everybody discouraged me, and everybody was like, why don't you just want to go out and club every night as you're studiously reading your book and working hard at Burger King or whatever? Okay, yeah, real American dream origin story. We'll see, whatever. Maybe that was your life. But he basically makes his entire argument predicated on the fact, because I was exploited, because I was undervalued, and now I am able to exploit people, right? Because that happened to me. Now everybody should be able to be exploited, right? Like, he's like, oh, I made, pennies on the dollar an hour in the military. Yeah, because they were exploiting you, dog. They literally tell you when you enlist in the military fucking owns you. You can do exactly what we say, or you can be put in a cage, a cement box. Okay. And that's how we'll deal with you, right? And then we'll dishonorably discharge, and we'll fuck up your life in a bunch of other ways. It's like joining the mob, right? You're in for life, or you're fucking out. And so anyway, that's not a great comparison for how we should build our society, right? And before this, he lays out like two options for our society, which is like a total false dichotomy. Okay, he says you can either like build your society where it's like, oh, everybody's a victim, blah blah blah, or you can say life's not fair, but what can I do about it? And basically the false dichotomy is like a heads I win, tails you lose kind of a proposition, right? Because it's like you either find a way to exploit others even though you've been exploited, or you just like don't deserve to move on. Like, that's what your market valuation is. It's like how bad, like how good are you at extracting the value of others, right? It's just a total warped view, when in reality you should say, no man, I think that we should take care of everybody, and with the excesses that we have, we should reward the things that we now take for granted, like oh yeah, our society is going to be fucked if we don't have enough elder care in a decade or so. How about we start paying those people 600 figures, because or 600 figures, six figures, because that's going to sound a lot better to people to go take care of the elderly if they're making racks, right? That would be something that would actually be beneficial to our society. Not, oh hey, how do I skirt some regulation in some industry that hasn't been deregulated yet, and then sell it to Silicon Valley for like a pretend $1 billion, which is what our society incentivizes now, which is why we get Airbnb and Uber instead of like meaningful solutions in our society. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.